Hi, Christy here. I'm here with my Akashic Records open again today. Starting my exploration with the phrase beautiful resistance. This came to me this morning while I was getting ready. Not a phrase I've ever heard in my entire life. And it came to me, I think, because I was reflecting on the fact that the last video I made, which was really about, someone saying I'm not driven by money. Money's not important to me, which ends up being sort of a what you resist persists thing because there becomes an over-focus on money. And I was thinking about there's a way in which resistance can be sort of destructive and problematic and so on, but there's also a way in which resistance can be life-giving. And it's not the kind of resistance where you're avoiding, it's more like declining. So, for example, if you are someone who has issues with food and you have a hard time not stopping or anything, any substance or any behavior, but if you can get to the point where you're like, I can have anything I want, whenever I want, in whatever quantity I want, if I can get my hands on it, but I choose not to do that. That's where the beautiful resistance, which I'm thinking is more like empowered declining or empowered saying yes in other scenarios, gives us the ability to be sort of the masters of our own universe and at the same time allowing us to expand into what's possible instead of getting super focused on something. They're bringing up the fact that some of us are reactive to our parents. I don't want to be like my mother or my father. And then we can end up reactively going the other way. And we're still not free to be ourselves. We're still caught in reactivity to someone else. And this also leads me into something that comes up a lot in the records, which is choice and no choice. If we feel we have choice, then we're empowered. And if we don't feel like we have a choice, then either we have to really make peace with that. For example, if you think of, certain people that have been incarcerated, and there's a lot of things they have no choice about, but they have influence on their own behaviors, their own choices, their own thoughts, even while confined by this situation. I think of Nelson Mandela, for example. Choice, no choice. All right, within the frameworks of things we have no choice about, what do we have choice about? And by the way, I just saw the garbage truck go up the street. It's gonna be coming back down. Hopefully you don't hear it, but that's what that is if you do. So yeah, this piece of choice and no choice is something that over lifetime, when I look at this, lifetime after lifetime, if we feel disempowered and we feel we have no choice, or the choices we have are limited or not good, there's a way in which we can potentially start feeling like a victim and perhaps shut down even more. Why bother? It's pointless. Why even try? And I know some people are having a little bit of that with the political things going on in the US right now. It's sort of like, we're doomed. But where do we have choices? And where can we be empowered to do something and bring in some of that beautiful resistance that allows us not to be trapped in the no choice, but to really actively choose where we can? Which brings, of course, that whole empowerment thing in. I jot a few quick notes before I open the records just to see, if there are things there that I might explore. And one of them is the question of fate versus free will. Sometimes we feel like it's all predetermined, predestined, and it's just going to be what it is, and there's really no point to really trying to do anything. But then there's the other side, which is free will. So while we are on this trajectory of our soul's path, and we can never be off our path, I always want to be clear about that. People ask me all the time, have I missed a turn? Am I off? No, this is perfect. This is exactly where you're supposed to be. You cannot be off your path, no matter how uncomfortable it feels. But the free will element is very important. You know, free will can make us decide, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to choose this. I'm not going to choose that. I'm going to go this direction instead of that direction. Our soul's yearnings are still going to point us towards something that helps us grow and evolve as souls. But how we get there, there's this meandering, winding, turning. If you ever watched the movie Sliding Doors, which was one of my favorite movies, I have not seen it in many, many years. It was like a fork in the road. If you I think it was a subway. If you catch the subway, you know, this scenario happens. And if you miss the subway, this other scenario happens, which is a very interesting conundrum. You know, it's funny to think about all the turning points that we have in our lives. What if, you know, you'd gone this way instead of that way, or even things that seem, you know, like the worst timing can also sometimes be the best timing. You know, sometimes the worst timing, maybe you get in a car accident, but maybe you just missed getting in a car accident or just missed getting on the plane or what. It's pretty interesting to contemplate the fate element and the influence we do have over things at the same time. Let me just see if there's anything else here about this that's kind of lighting up. Just a little bit more about the empowerment piece. We tend to forget just how powerful we are, is what they're saying. That we're bandied about, you know, we're kind of shuttled around in our world in a way, like we bounce against things and things happen. And sometimes it feels like we're on this ride. We're on this ride and we can't get off. And we're hoping it comes out okay. We're not sure it will. But that there's these forces we have no influence over. And yet we do. Again, with our choices, but also with our intentions, with our mindset, with our practices, with our associations with people. If you think about the fact that one of the causes and conditions we look for in the Akashic Records is environment, that environment can cause some of the things that happen to us. We have a lot of influence over our environment once we're adults, and when we're children we have less, of course. But we can choose who to hang around with and how to spend our time with them, and what kind of relationships uplift us and what kind of relationships really don't, and make choices around what environment we want to have, whether it's the physical environment or the environment of the people around us or animals or what have you. All right, hopefully some of this has been helpful. I'd love to hear in the comments below if there's any upgrades to your environment that you might consider at this point. I look forward to seeing you in the next video, and in the meantime, please go be brilliant.